Well, Mighty, this is it. We finally made it to the volcano itself. In this case, we're now on top of the forms of the DK Island. So, yeah, after going for a lot of locations in one island. So as a result, though, yeah, we've gone the whole way through. Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here. And I'm Mighty the Armadillo here, welcome you all back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos as always. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Nintendo Wii, or Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. So last time, we've essentially managed able to finish up with the forms of the second half, in terms of the forms of the factory world, and in addition to that, we also manage able to go through, without doubt, one of the hardest boss fights in the game in my opinion, just because of how random the actual boss pattern as far as this is concerned. So today for this video is about the fact that we're about to be continuing things on and explore through the final main world in the game, that is known as the Volcano. And to begin with, let's dive right into World 8-1, Furious Fire. And this is without doubt one of the hardest worlds in the game, just because you might as well die a lot in this entire world, mainly due to the fact that, as you probably already know, ever since during the forms of this 6th temple level, basically it's all lava. So because of that, if you dare touch the lava, it's instant death. Oh, and same applies with the forms of the 2nd temple level as well. And I think back there, that's actually kind of a cool transition, that we've went to the factory and now here we are in the volcano itself. So, pretty much a standard format when it comes to the forms of the final worlds in the game. Like after all, that every single new Super Mario Bros. Games always ends up with the forms of something lava related, including by the forms of Sonic Lost World on the Wii U and 3DS as well. And exponentially speaking, same applies with the forms of, maybe potentially with the forms of Super Mario Sunshine as well, by the forms of Corona Mountain. So, but either way, originally we were supposed to able to say that word, but as it turns out we have to deal with it when it comes to like, well, again, it's been about 2 days ago, I suppose, since we've last played this game, since on the 22nd of May. Ah, jeez, I did not expect with those particular fireballs that somehow show up out of nowhere. Because of that, though, relatively speaking now about the fact that we will try our best if we're able to actually just try to survive as much as we possibly can for the entire world. So either way, though, everything else will be a little bit more, yeah, we got able to keep ducking on these parts, because otherwise, that's, you know, we only got 1 health left, but potentially speaking though, yeah, we did somehow die. And also I just realized that we come across into that question mark silhouette this time around, because unlike the forms of how it does it on the previous worlds, that we're able to actually expect to see the silhouettes of specific Tikis that we're about to face up against, at least depending on what world we go into. So in this world in particular, at the moment, we can only come across into a question mark, so meaning that about the fact that we might come across into this unexpected villain as far as this is concerned, but then again though, we'll point things out during at some point during this Friday and onwards. So yeah, because of that though, it's about the fact that, well, today's day is of course the 24th of May today, in this case in 2023 today. Now I suppose that, I believe that Tiana, she's obviously forgot to mention about something in terms of the forms of Metroid Fusion Let's Play, that recently during the forms have been yesterday, specifically in North America, Super Mario Galaxy 2 has turned 13 years old since 2010 on May 23rd. Gee, time flies, you know. Even though it's been a very long time since I actually have last played Super Mario Galaxy 2 on our original Wii hardware, plus just because it's kind of a shame that that game does not appear on a Nintendo Switch, just because of the forms of our fact that, well, usually because that Nintendo forgot to, like, include that from the likes of the forms of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars compilation, as far as you guys should probably already notice at this point. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that you can't play the game on the go, unless assuming if you do manage able to actually access to Dolphin Emulator from the likes of the forms of Steam Deck or something like that. That might be a possibility for doing this. Well, as it turns out about the fact that, assuming of course if you do have any like some sort of specs to run it, especially concerning about the fact that whenever we did manage to try out, you know, Wii emulators and all that stuff, basically though, when it runs into our laptop, it constantly lags a lot, which also applies in the forms of certain emulation as far as this is concerned, ranging between the Dreamcast ones and pretty much everything else for that resides, especially concerning about the fact that, well, I know for a fact that we had that Acer laptop for almost 10 years, until July, which is about 2 months time now, that expecting we'll have that particular laptop for about 10 years. So either way though, because time will tell. So either way, there's the bonus area right here if you couldn't tell, and because of that we got ourselves the easiest one out of the bunch. Because you know, with all that trampoline and all that stuff though, it should make things 10 times as easier. Then in forms of how it does it on the hardest ones, you know, with the forms of that particular moving platforms and all that stuff though, at least to me anyway. So, but either way though, that might be saying something, so... And don't expect about the fact that certain levels might actually feel a bit a lot lengthier at this point, especially because not only because of how long these stages can take when it comes to the forms of trying to finishing them, but it's also about the forms of a lot of dual die situations here and there. With all that, a lot of, you know, trial and error usually comes into play. So, relatively speaking now about the fact that we can expect able to come across into a lot of death situations from the likes of not only, you know, instantly died by the forms of the lava or anything else like that. So everything else will be pretty much expected at that point. And god dang it, I've lost Diddy Kong again. Although, potentially speaking, we can able to have the ability to blow those particular ball-like creatures that is covered in lava, that you can potentially try to able to get rid of them, assuming of course if you have yourselves a good, you know, blowing position, like here for instance. So potentially speaking, you're able to actually get rid of them from here. Oh, in addition to all that kinds of stuff though, is about the fact that I'm happy to report that the 3DS version of Donkey Kong Country Returns, specifically Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, has recently came 10 years old just recently. Oh yeah, we will decide able to talk about that I suppose, but maybe until whenever it gets to the point until when the levels is actually going to get a bit chilled, something related to the forms of frustration and all that stuff. Because obviously about the fact, as you can tell, we're still mainly focusing on trying to able to focus on not only getting, you know, the rest of the Kong letters for each and every single level, but also with the forms of the puzzle pieces here and there as well. And then highly doubt about the fact that much like the forms of, let's say, on a forest and a cliff, alongside with the factory, well, I don't think we can probably be able to complete the entire world with one single sitting. So because of this though, well, at least in terms of the forms of this particular recording session in mind. So either way, that pretty much does it for the likes of Furious Fire. Even though I was quite surprised that I managed to did this level from the second attempt, even though despite the beginning portion is a bit rough around the edges as far as you can definitely tell. But hey, at least there's a good start for some cases anyway. And on top of that, this will be the final time we're going to be seeing Cranky Kong right here. Or to be more specifically, we can able to actually buy the final map key in the entire game to able to unlock another one of those levels. So, but hopefully we'll meet him again at some point whenever we get to the extras for the likes of Donkey Kong Country Returns, for the Wii version most likely. So either way, let's go ahead and move on to the next level, which is World 8-2 Hot Rocket. So something tells me we'll go back onto the forms of the Rocket Barrel segment, because the last time we actually experienced the Rocket Barrel, which appears to be by the forms of Gear Getaway on the likes of World 7. So I could expect about that point about the fact that I believe this level might actually feel a bit extremely difficult. So, which to be expected because this is the final world in the game, at least specifically the final main world of the game, at least assuming of course about the fact that, well, we're probably able to actually save that conversation once we get into, well, potentially speaking, we're actually getting very close towards the end of the game now, before we move on to the forms of the next installment of the series when it comes to Donkey Kong Platformer series in mind. That's what appears to be Tropical Freeze, or potentially speaking with other Donkey Kong games here and there as well, like DK King of Swing, or heck, even with the forms of Donkey Kong Jungle Climber for the Nintendo DS. Although the only games we're probably not going to do are Donkey Konga 1 and Donkey Konga 2. That's just because about the fact that I'm not very great at those games. Well, mind you, it's been a very awfully a long time since we've last experienced Donkey Konga 1, even though it's a bit of a shame that we no longer have that game anymore, just because about the fact that I'm not exactly great on the forms of higher difficulties with like Gorilla, alongside with the forms of Chimp levels, just because the amount of notes timing you have to put up with is actually you know, pretty tough to able to actually get everything else perfectly. Well, at least it's nothing compared to the forms of the gorilla level for certain songs. And plus, because of that though, is that most of those songs are basically copyrighted music, so because of this though, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that I don't think we can probably do the forms of the Donkey Kong games when it comes to musical-based games, because the only time we can only do something related to Donkey Kong is, of course, platformers, and maybe potentially with certain spin-offs in mind, like, you know what I mean about the fact that we've already done, you know, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat on both the Wii and the GameCube versions, so just to compare the forms of the different level design here. So either way though, yeah, let's just go and get onto the forms of Hot Rocket, and jeez Louise, because as you can tell, that we died 3 times right now, because obviously I've missed the K right there. And this is what I mean about the fact that the difficulty is about to ramp up ridiculously degree. So because of that though, yeah, you'll drain a lot of lives very fast. Especially concerning about the fact that with these, let's just say in this level for instance, alongside with the next one coming up, that basically though is about the fact that not only do you waste a lot of extra lives, but you could expect that you will able to actually activate the Super Kong Guide mode very often, especially because about the fact that, well, generally speaking though, it's just about the fact that I'm still not a big fan of the forms of the Kong Guide mode system, just because of all that ruins the actual challenge for my book, especially because about the fact that it completes the level for us, so. And also not to mention though is about the fact that I've noticed that getting the Kong letters alongside with the forms of any other puzzle pieces for that matter is also kind of difficult to get sometimes. Although mainly for instance about the fact that you always have to give yourselves a good timing window where it comes to utilizing the forms of the rocket barrels and stuff like that. I mean, for the most part they're fine as it is, but then thankfully once we get into the forms of Tropical Freeze, that basically some of these improvements might start to come in. Like for instance that we able to have the ability to have 2 hearts or potentially 3 hearts if you do manage to play Funky Kong mode in the forms of the Nintendo Switch version, so. But yeah, that might be something else entirely, so yeah, I could definitely see why about the fact that the Volcano world is by far the hardest world in the game, just because of all that, you know, a lot of trial and error moments here and there, and it's even way too stingy, as you can tell, that you have to be so accurate with all that, you know, the elevation with that particular rocket barrel in mind, and it just feels a bit, I don't know, weird to get used to at points, so. Because, again, it's been about quite some time since we were able to actually utilize the rocket barrels since in a factory world in Gear Getaway. So, anyway, so yeah, let's talk about the forms of trying to look back on the forms of the 3DS version of Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Nintendo 3DS. And I gotta say, I really still managed to enjoy it after 10 years when it first came out, even though it does have its flaws for sure, mainly due to the fact that the visuals might look a bit rough around the edges at points, and on top of all that stuff though is about the fact that, potentially speaking, that the frame rate might bother me a little bit, specifically because of the forms of how it factored because of the handheld's limitations, and on top of all that stuff though is about the fact that it only runs at 30 FPS instead of the original 60 frames per second, unlike the Wii version. So because of that though, although, potentially speaking, that I still managed able to enjoy the 3DS version of the game still, that you can able to play the game on the go, and on top of that, the addition of the forms of the extra world has been added to the 3DS version, known as the Cloud World, and overall, I think it's actually a pretty fantastic port to the likes of based off from the likes of the Nintendo Wii game. So either way though, yeah, I'm very pleased able to actually still have the physical copy of the game still, and there's no doubt I'm not gonna able to actually get rid of it because I enjoy the game so much on the 3DS version most likely. So, but that's the way I feel about it because, you know, with most other franchises I always attempt to prefer, you know, with like, you know, we still enjoy Mario and Sonic and The Legend of Zelda and Kirby alongside with Metroid and Donkey Kong, Yoshi, Wario, and even now and then Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and especially noticeable with the forms of Ape Escape, and heck, even with the forms of other selections of titles I haven't heard about it for quite some time. So either way though, that might be saying something, so. And there we go. I think this is actually the last time we were able to utilize the rocket barrels kind of thing about it. Although it wasn't until whatever we get to later on though, we might as well technically use that again at some point by the end of this world. But either way though, that will be a discussion until on Friday. So either way, now we can able to actually access to World 8-3 or World 8-4. So relatively speaking, we'll start those levels in a chronological order. So let's get to it with the forms of roasting rails, because I think something tells me we will come across into that minecart level. So now I think fundamentally speaking, this will be the last time we're able to actually catch a ride on the forms of the minecart level, because afterwards though, then I'm happy to report that we've almost done with the forms of the minecart levels, because let me tell you, those minecart stages are by far the hardest stages in the entire game so far, at least in my opinion, especially because you tend to die a lot. So but that's just the way I feel about it. But potentially speaking, again, once we get into the forms of tropical freeze until next year, then obviously that some of these things might actually improve upon. So, and the reason why we never actually get into the barrel cannon, because that's where you get yourselves the bonus area right over there. And potentially speaking, we can able to potentially try to get that puzzle piece from the start. So, well, assuming of course if we do collect everything in here. So although something's worth noting for is about the fact that, well, generally speaking, when it comes to the bonus areas in this game so far, that we're getting very close towards the end when it comes to completing every single bonus areas in the entire game so far. Yeah, I was usually concerned about this because obviously about the fact that, you know, we're getting close towards the end of the game right now, so potentially speaking though, we still got a whole ways to go. Like going for the forms of the majority of the Volcano world, so and unfortunately we did somehow die due to the forms of that very bad timing jump, but that's just because about the fact that something tells me that ever since in World 4 that we can obviously manage able to stand on the forms of one of those minecarts instead of able to actually like sit on the forms of the minecart while you jump with the minecart, so you can able to jump off the minecart while it's stacked up with the forms of crystals and all that stuff. So anyway though, and there's also short things worth noting for is about the fact that we're getting very close towards the end of May before we move on to June. So in some cases though, that June will be the last month of the first half of 2023. So everything else will be pretty much expected at that point. So anyways, let's try this part again and just make sure that we don't mess up this time. Because I think that something tells me that the checkpoint is a bit stretched out for my liking, which just like the forms of how it does it in Mantra Marathon or any other levels for that matter, that I feel like the checkpoints might feel a bit kind of stretch out at points. So just to make things a bit more tougher for ourselves. So, and unfortunately I failed again, so darn it! Oh well. And then also worth noting for is that, yeah, we've only got 2 days left until the live-action adaptation of The Little Mermaid is closer to its release. And no matter what though, one thing that both Mighty and I have both forgot to mention about during the course of the last few videos or something like that, including Sonic the Hedgehog from the likes of the forms of Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2 Let's Play, that basically is about the fact that there is this very weird image for one of those clips in the likes of the forms of one of those clips in particular called Under the Sea, and as a result for that kind of stuff though is that I can't even believe by saying this is that one of those rolling eye images when if you pause on screen, basically it just looks so weird and bizarre at the same time, although not in a good way mind you, just because I'm still not looking forward to the actual film itself, especially because after the forms of a massive disappointment of not only Aladdin live-action remake, but it's also with the Lion King, alongside with the forms of Mulan, and even especially noticeable, don't even get me started on Pinocchio though, just because of all that. You know, they messed up on nostalgia, especially because, oh, and also the same applies with Dumbo, and heck, even with the forms of Beauty and the Beast as well, which I honestly have no idea why that Sonic did somehow manage able to watch that film to begin with, back in during the films within 2017, despite, well, usually back in the day, he found that film okay, but now and then, it's actually getting a bit rough around the edges now, especially, gee, no wonder why we prefer classics over the likes of the live-action adaptations. So, because, seriously, that just gets really old and also feels a bit stale after a while, especially because concerning about the fact that, well, usually relatively speaking, that's what I can really say about this for the most part. And gee, it's been about 12 days ago since when The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out on the Nintendo Switch, believe it or not. Although, mind you, we don't have to necessarily worry about the forms of leaks right now, just because the game has already been out for 12 days ago. So, either way, though, that must be saying something. So, oh, come on! I was so close to able to get to the checkpoint or something. Oh, jeez. Every time whenever I touch by the forms of those flammable tikis and stuff like that, it still counts as a death, apparently. So, gee, I was not expecting that. But anyway, we'll try again, and hopefully we'll try to able to pass by this point. I'm assuming so anyway. Seriously, this is without doubt the hardest minecart level in the entire game, in my opinion, just because of all that, you know what I mean, trial and error comes into play. Although, potentially speaking, that about the fact that I don't think we can able to actually worry about getting a game over anytime soon, because, you know, we still got, you know, a lot of lives, so that makes this thing a lot more generous about it. Although exponentially as well, that thankfully, unlike the forms of how it does it in both Donkey Kong Country 1, as well as Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3, basically every time whenever you, oh, and also same applies with the forms of Donkey Kong Land 1, 2, and 3, that basically every time when you switch off the game and start the game up again, basically you do realize about the fact that your life's counter resets. Although, in this game, alongside with the forms of Tropical Freeze as well, and I believe, same applies with the forms of, the Game Boy Advance remake versions of not only Donkey Kong Country 1, but also with Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3, that basically your lives will be saved every time whenever you do manage to switch the game off, or turn it back on again. So, yeah, that might be pretty generous, especially concerning about the fact that, well, at least unlike the forms of how it does it on the Game Boy Color version of Donkey Kong Country 1, that it does have the forms of the life resetting segment. So, anyway, so I think we've almost done with this level, so I just want to... Oh, I got the G, but I accidentally fell in the lava, so whoops. And screw you, I don't want to activate the Super Kong mode, because whoever needs that anyway, because obviously we've now got every single puzzle pieces right now, and all he needs to do now is just basically we need to get the G, and that will be about it. Because let me tell you, I just want to get this level done and finished before Insanity mode will able to come into play, for at least from my perspective anyway, so... But either way, that's what I can really think about it, so... Anyway though, so... Oh, come on! That fireball just come out of nowhere! Oh, jeez. How could possibly get any, insane than this? Alright, gonna have to focus now. So... Alright, not too bad. And now let's try this part again. At least potentially we're gonna have to able to... I think the best strategy for this is just to wait, and then you can go. Even though if you really want to do something related to the forms of the time attack or something, well, then again we'll show that particular thing off and during at some point in the extras part, so... Alright, almost there, just almost there. Alright, there we go. And I think something tells me there is a banana coin, so... Alright, speaking of more banana coins, I got 15, so I think I've pretty much almost maxed out at 999 when it comes to the forms of those banana coins, potentially. So, but either way, that's what I can really think about it, so I'm very glad this level's finished. So, anyways, let's move on to the next level, which is Smoky Peak. So, either way, World 8-4. Now, I think something tells me this is the last level in the game to able to feature my favorite art style, which is, of course, the silhouette levels. So, it's a shame this is the last one out of all the forms, all three of them, but beggars yourselves can't be choosers, I guess. And something tells me we will meet up with Rampy for the final time in this game in particular, because obviously we need to use him for the majority of the forms of the puzzle pieces, and also with any other stuff for this matter, so... Yeah, because that's exactly how the fact that you see those little, like, gear, structure while you're able to see that particular outlines of Rampy right there. That actually signifies that Rampy is the only one you can able to break these things. So, because speaking of such, there's the first puzzle piece right there, and there's going to be another couple of them later down the road, so... But yeah, I think that's as far as I can think about in terms of like looking back on the forms of the 3DS version of Donkey Kong Country Returns, especially concerning about the fact that I think Sonic did actually tell me something, that was back in the day in 2013, despite the fact that he didn't get the game in day 1, it wasn't until in the 25th of May that he did somehow manage able to get the game, alongside with the forms of the pre-order bonus items, which includes a keyring banana thing, and also with the forms of the carry bag as well, featuring a silhouette of Donkey Kong and all that stuff, which I think is actually quite cool, despite the fact that we've lost the carry bag while we moved to the forms of this new house. So, kind of unfortunate though, but at least on the upside is though, we got tons of carry bags from the likes of not only the DS and 3DS, but also with, you know, Game Boy Advance SP, PSP, PlayStation Vita, alongside with the forms of the Nintendo Switch. So, which reminds me about the fact no matter what though, since that we still have ourselves, you know, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze on the Switch, I just don't know about the fact that the Donkey Kong Country Returns never gets its re-release on the Switch either. I mean, sure, about the fact no matter what though, it's kind of tricky to explain, because I know for a fact that it's been about, you know what I'm saying, 2 days ago since we've last played this game for sure, because obviously that Tiana, she still continued things on during the forms of, you know, Metroid Fusion and such, and in fact, no matter what though, she's now basically moved on to the forms of some optional stuff before she goes on to the finale portion of Metroid Fusion. So either way though, I've honestly have no idea why I took a death right there. I think something tells me with that particular, let's just say one of the Kong letters needs to be obtained, or perhaps even maybe I couldn't tell what's going on, because sometimes the actual silhouette plot parts manage to blend into the background at points, but either way though, sometimes it can be hard to see at points, so anyway, so we'll just go ahead and grab some more bananas just in case for, like, you know, getting that extra life back, assuming for this point, so alright, so let's just go ahead and not destroy that particular platform, because, oh, there's a puzzle piece right there. I almost assume that's going to be one of those Kong letters, specifically N and G for that matter, but either way, I lost my footing right there, especially to make matters worse, my jump distance isn't exactly reachable enough, especially it's bad enough about the fact that my jumps are so wonky at points, so that's totally my fault there, because obviously it's been a very long while since we've actually last stumbled across into Rambi since in World 6, despite the fact that we have to use him throughout the majority of one of those levels in World 6 for the majority of the puzzle pieces, of course, so which, either way though, despite the fact that it did took us about 2 attempts on that particular level, mind you, and the checkpoint is right there after when I did died for about quite a few times because of the forms of messed up timing jumps, and on top of that, well, just anything else for that matter, so but it doesn't really matter though, because I think at this point in time we're now down to like lower than 90 lives, so, and something tells me we need to be fast on that part, because obviously if we don't be fast enough then we'll die instantly, and also if you dare touch the lava like that, that also counts as a death, so I was not expecting that, but either way, thankfully we can able to bring back Diddy Kong right here, so just in case that gives us a massive boost to make things a bit more easier for ourselves when it comes to this particular level itself, so hopefully we'll try this again and hopefully we'll able to succeed, so at least I'm assuming so anyway. And even then though, this will also be the last time we're going to be seeing Rambi right here, because, well, as I mentioned this before, that's, well, you probably already know what to expect, so, okay, so this is where we're going to be able to rush this up, because I think this particular part is going to crumble, so, in addition to that, the G letter's right there. No! Ah, oh, come on! Ah, seriously, I'm almost gone to the final stretch of the level, but something tells me my jumps are a bit awkward at points again, so I have no idea what's going on today. I don't know about you though, because relatively speaking though, about the fact that, well, again, it's been quite some time since we actually ride Rambi right here, since, you know, it's since in World 6, so yeah, because, you know, with all that, a lot of, like, I don't know what you would call it, Alright, so let's not fail this time. I'm hoping so anyway. Alright, just need to grab this G. Okay, there we go. Alright. Now we finally made it, but before we end off the level right here, we need to dash through here and get our last puzzle piece. It looks like we're not doing too bad in this world when it comes to getting every single puzzle pieces so far. Although, mind you, I might as well spoke too soon on this point, because something tells me eventually I might as well miss one of those puzzle pieces later on. So, yeah, I was assuming so anyway. So, anyway, that pretty much does it from that particular level. So, either way, and let's go ahead and move on to, let's do one more level for the time being, and that's what appears to be bobbing BASALT. I think that's what it says anyway. World 8-5. So, anyway, so speaking of the forms of, the live-action Little Mermaid stuff, something tells me that someone said in the comments down below that, basically is about the fact that we actually got ourselves some brief, 4 clips dropped so far, including, let's just say, 3 of those songs and also 1 of those scenes or something. And that's what appears to be by the forms of Part of Your World, Kiss the Girl, Under the Sea, and A Deal with Ursula, for some reason. Although, I believe my guess is basically it's like the actual alternative version of Poor Unfortunate Souls song. Well, I'm not exactly sure of how I feel about it, mainly because, again, we're still not into the forms of the live-action stuff as much as the animated stuff. I must be brutally honest here. But it's just about the fact that I just basically give up on the forms of those, you know, live-action adaptations, as you probably already know. Yeah, same here. Especially we do prefer, you know, a lot of, like, color to it. But that's just the way of how I feel about it. Oh, and on top of all that stuff, though, I believe we, for those of you who lived in Poland, basically, they've got 2 more days to go until the Super Mario Bros. Movie, released in Poland, will be releasing on the big screen. So, something worth noting for, especially that, gee, I wonder if the box office might continue that tradition. Well, at least specifically until likely the next couple of days or so. But we'll just see what happens in due time. Mainly, we'll try to mention more about it until God knows until either on at the end of this month or potentially in June. So it's hard to tell at this point because I know for a fact that it's been quite some time since we actually mentioned something like this. So anyway, so let's just go and continue things on here. Just make sure we don't get crushed. Because obviously, if you couldn't tell, that we accidentally died due to the fault of this unnecessary bonus that we somehow managed able to come across into. So, well, luckily it does not contain any puzzle pieces on that particular part, as we did die from earlier. So, either way, though, at least thankfully we've already got that puzzle piece from earlier ago, because you need to grab all these collectibles on this part right here. So, yeah, because exponentially speaking, we did that no problem. So, because we pretty much know exactly what to expect, so, oh jeez. Certain platforming stuff are a bit tricky to handle with in this world sometimes. But I'm sure we're able to actually just try to pass through these parts right here. Assuming, of course, about the fact that every time you step on one of these, as you can tell, they all start to crumble, so good thing we did not die before the checkpoint right there, because that would be embarrassing if that happens, especially after getting hit by that particular drum-like tiki. Jeez, that would be embarrassing to boot. So, oh, and on top of all that stuff, though, speaking of embarrassment, though, you already know about the fact that in the last episode of this particular Let's Play, basically, though, about the fact that you know about the forms of liftoff launch level, that we did the embarrassing death from the likes of the forms of the beginning portion of the level, because I blame on my Wii remote for that matter when it comes to not only just refusing to do a blow, so instead they managed to be able to do a roll attack instead. So, either way, which I very appreciated that also during the forms of the 3DS version, that I don't mind the button mashing stuff, but it tends to hurt my thumbs a little bit quickly, especially because if you try to deal with like, you know what I mean, grabbing onto certain grassy bits, or potentially speaking with all that continuous roll attacks with the forms of both Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong. But aside from all that stuff though, and also I really love the forms of new items that's actually introduced on the 3DS version as well, on the newer modes most likely, and on top of that additional hearts between either Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong together, So everything else will be pretty much expect. Despite the fact that the load times are likely for static image and stuff like that, but again, because of the limitations of the handheld, and on top of that, with the video quality, in terms of opening cutscene and the ending cutscene, basically it's like somewhat of a low quality, just like the forms of how it does it in Sonic Lost World, which, kind of think about it, between Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, along with Sonic Lost World, they both came out the same year. Well, except with the forms of the month, I suppose. So as you can tell, that I'm usually carrying a DK barrel very carefully, because something tells me, much like the forms of the old school Donkey Kong days, and especially noticeable with the past levels ago, basically we need to once again carry the forms of the barrel all the way to that particular crumbling wall right here to break through. That's what pretty much leads us to, what else? Another bonus area. And the good thing about this is an easier one. So in some cases, once again, we're going to this little bouncy trampoline from side to side. So either way, though, we can potentially grab those collectibles a lot easier. So, anywho, that pretty much does it from there. But of course, we're not exactly done yet, because obviously we need to head back for the end right here. And I believe we've only got one piece left until we've basically done everything on this stage. So, even though despite the fact that we come across into quite a few deaths here and there, unfortunately, well, that's just because, well, I simply just wasn't paying attention to the actual footing right there. So, oh well. But at least on the upside, we've got that puzzle piece at the very least. So, at least we don't have to worry about doing this again. Although, exponentially, if we decided able to do the 3DS version eventually, at some point in the future, then obviously we have to do this again. Oh, come on! Why's my jumps not come out? Oh, jeez. Oh well, but at least we can able to still get Diddy Kong back again, so... And no matter what though, I think this might actually be the last time, potentially speaking anyway, depending on the death situation, that will be the last time we were able to actually see that particular, tutorial pig, along with the forms of that godforsaking, Super Kong guide mode, because let me tell you, that we're getting very close, as you probably already know. So as a result, that hopefully we're not going to be able to actually just to see that again, especially concerning about the fact that, well, you probably already know, because we've already explained about this ever since in a fourth world. So, anyway, so let's just keep on moving. Just gonna make sure we dodge everything else as much as we can. And that's the last puzzle piece right there. Simple and self-explanatory. And let's not forget ourselves the G right there. That is the hardest to get. So anyways, we got the ending stuff at this point right here, right now. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Donkey Kong Country Returns. Is that we're most able to finish up everything in terms of the Volcano world. So I'm pretty excited about this, do you think? Yeah, absolutely. So I'll see you guys on Friday. Later, dudes.